Today's podcast is sponsored by my new favorite animated TV show, Tuttle Twins, the first cartoon series to teach kids principles of freedom, economics, and liberty, and to be funny in the process. Nowadays, hidden political agendas are constantly forced on your kids in entertainment and in schools. Tuttle Twins is a hilarious cartoon series that teaches kids about the principles of freedom without being overly preachy. It's educational and hilarious, and there are lots of jokes for adults too. The best part, you can watch Tuttle Twins entirely for free. Just go to TuttleTwins.tv, that is Tuttle Twins, TuttleTwins.tv, and over there you can watch all of the episodes for free. One more time, that's TuttleTwins.tv. Highly recommend it. Go check it out. What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world? I would like to welcome you back to the Real Talk with Zuby podcast. Now, today's special guest is Oliver Anwar. He is a fitness junkie, and he also coaches entrepreneurs all over the world. So welcome to the show, Oliver. How you doing?
Thank you, Zuby. Yeah, I'm great. Thanks yourself.
Yep. Life is always good, man. Life is always good. So I've done a brief intro right there, man. But for people who are not familiar with you, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name's Oliver Anwar, and like Zuby said, I'm a coach to entrepreneurs and high performers all over the world. I'm from the UK, as you can hear from the accent, and one of my biggest passions is football, working out, fitness, and travel. So I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I grew up in the UK. My parents have a mixed background. So my dad's from Indonesia, which is quite cool. My mum's from the UK. They met traveling. They made me, which is great. And then, I'm now living and working in the UK. I've traveled quite far around the world. I've been to 33 different countries. And that's probably where we're at now. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So tell me a little bit more about your childhood. I know on Twitter you post about that from time to time to share some perspective and gratitude. So tell me a little bit more about the life story.
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, I grew up with a parent from the UK and my dad's from Indonesia. And he actually grew up in a small village in Sumatra, which, if you don't know where that is, it's up near Malaysia. And he lived in a house in a little kind of wooden shack, essentially, with 9 brothers. So he grew up with a lot of poverty, actually. And he ended up meeting my mum. He made it to the UK and built a life for me and my sister. And it's been really interesting for me to see, because I, as a kid, actually lived out in Indonesia in the village as a baby. And, a lot of people in the West say I'm oppressed, right? And you actually get to see when, you see these third world countries, and definitely the upbringing that my dad had, kind of how grateful I am to not have lived that, and some of the struggles and issues that he had to face, not just in the country, but when coming to the UK as well. So it really has actually driven me to really push myself, because, he's a big motivator to me.
That's awesome, man. And so you lived over there for a while, and then how old were you when you came to the UK? Primarily?
Yeah, so I was 2 years old when I was over there, and then we came over to the UK. So when we got to the UK, I developed a big passion for playing football, as I mentioned. So as a kid, I played elite level football, soccer for the US audience in the UK. And I was able to play for like the academy level. So I played against the likes of like Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United as a kid, which was really cool. And I think like competitive sport has really driven my passion for fitness, because it's developed a lot of the disciplines that I have now, and also developed the kind of just competitiveness that you need in business too, which I think was great. I got to about 16, 17, and I wasn't actually good enough to make it as a professional, which for me was kind of heartbreaking at the time. I was really kind of upset, because I played my whole childhood and had this dream of becoming a professional footballer. But anyway, I entered college at this time as a short, skinny footballer, and I was really insecure, actually. I kind of had this dream shattered of being a footballer, and I was going into an environment with a lot of big rugby players. That was the college that I went to. And these guys were like 6'2", 6'3", right? Like the typical jocks, the typical chads. And I was just this short, skinny guy, right? So I felt like I needed to get a little bit bigger, for the fact that I was insecure inside when it came to some of the failures I had and just how I felt I looked about my body. So I spent about sort of 3-4 years just dedicating myself to the gym and training, watching YouTube videos, training myself, making all the mistakes under the sun when it comes to your body, as you've probably made yourself, right? When it comes to starting out as a newbie. After a while, I actually started to get somewhere, and I got to the point where I was at my first year of university in London, And I was getting so many people asking me like, man, I want to go on holiday. How do I get in shape? And these were lots and lots of people were asking me this both online and in person. I thought, you know what? I'm a broke student. I'm going to set up a website whilst I'm at university and see if I can blog about my story and some of the things that I've done. So I did that. I set up a website. I learned how to do WordPress, and I launched this website, got everyone on Facebook to share it. And I remember on the first day, I actually got somebody buy a fitness package off me on the first day. And I couldn't believe it. I checked my PayPal account. I thought, who the hell is paying me to coach them, right? Like, what is this? I felt like a complete imposter, which was crazy. But it kind of then spiraled then to what I'm doing now. After coaching people for like 5 years, we're in a spot where I'm coaching kind of entrepreneurs from all over the world and high performers. So yeah, that's a little bit around kind of that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So it's funny that the main thing that got you into lifting was going to, going to a place where you are one of the smaller people. And all these rugby players and all that. It's funny because I actually got into lifting because of rugby as well. So
okay.
As you know, I grew up in Saudi Arabia, and when I was there, the main sports I played were football and baseball. And then I've never been a skinny kid. I was more of a fat kid. In fact, I weigh the exact same amount right now as I did when I was 15 years old. That's a little interesting fact for people.
Oh yeah, I see the photo.
Yeah. So I got to the UK. I went to boarding school at the age of 11. Obviously, there's no baseball in the UK. And rugby actually quickly became my main sport. So I started playing rugby when I was 11. Then when I got to like about 14, 15 years old, I started dabbling in going to the gym. Then when I was like 15, 16, some of my friends at the school I was at, some of whom were also rugby players, but a lot of us just were like into bodybuilding. And we got like, I mean, we kind of got like probably a little bit too into it. And we were just reading all these like muscle and fitness magazines and Flex magazine and stuff with all these like roided out guys on all of them. And I think a lot of us didn't even know that, like a lot of these guys were like on steroids and stuff. So we'd literally try to like follow the exact same programs as like IFBB.
It's the same as me. I used to go onto this website called Simply Shredded, right? Where they had all these big fitness models, and I would follow the diet plan of these guys souped up on gear, and I would follow it like program to program, workout to workout, meal to meal, thinking I was going to look like them. It was crazy, man.
Yeah. And so, a lot of trial and error, but it's I'm so glad I started at that age, though. I'm really glad I got into it in my teenage years because it's so easy to maintain now. It's just a habit, like brushing my teeth or having a shower. You don't need to continuously motivate yourself again and again. So from selling that first program to what you've built and created now, tell me a little bit more about that process and journey.
Yeah, for sure. So I continued with university. At this point, I was running my business on the side, or this website, you could call it a side hustle. But I got to the end of university and my business just wasn't really at the point where I could say, hey, I don't want to work. I needed to work a job. So I actually ended up getting a job straight after university in a corporate role in London for a big telecommunications company. And as a kid, it was strange. I had a passion for fitness, but I'd always had in my mind I wanted to be this big corporate guy, right? That traveled the world, that was this big salesman. And I had this kind of vision in my head for that was what I was going to be. I got 6 months into this role and I thought, fuck that, this is not me, right? I worked the corporate job and I thought, this is terrible. And at the time as well, I was basically balancing this job with trying to take my business to the next level. So I'd be waking up at 6 a.m. I'd get in at 6 p.m. I'd go to the gym. I'd then work from like 8 p.m. until midnight, 1 o'clock, get a few hours sleep, wake up the next day and repeat. And at this point, I actually remember there was a very kind of poignant moment where I was stood over my balcony, overlooking some apartments that I was in that I couldn't really afford. And I thought, I'm fucking miserable, man. I was abusing alcohol. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't dealing with stress well. My relationship started to suffer at this point too. I didn't have the kind of confidence or willpower to go out and date. And I just felt kind of really on my own and lonely. And at this point I said, the thing that's making me unhappy is this career path that I'm down. And for me to really build this business and to be passionate about what I do, I need to leave. So The next week, I handed my notice in at my corporate job and I said, I'm off to do my own thing. Now, this was a very naive move because at the time I didn't really have that much money saved up, but I had a lot of passion and drive, right? And I thought that this was going to be the thing that would keep me going. So
when was this?
So this was probably about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3-4 years ago. So I quit the job and I started doing a few kind of side gigs on the side with the little savings I had, and really tried to push my business forward. A few months came down and I realized that my business wasn't making any money. My freelance job wasn't going to be able to pay my rent, and I was flat out broke, man. I was broke, and I realized that this month I can't pay my rent. So luckily I knew somebody that had a vending machine company. So I ended up getting a job filling vending machines 12 hours a day. And this was a very humbling experience because I was working with people that, you know, were from different backgrounds that had never really like been and had the, you could say, opportunities that I did, you know, go to university and things like that. And each day I was going there doing 12-hour manual shifts, filling these vending machines. And it really humbles you, man, when you do that kind of work, because it really makes you realize that people have tough jobs and things get difficult at times, man. And yeah, I did that. And luckily after a while, my business started to pick up. So I quit the vending machine job and I began running my business full time around kind of like the middle of 2020, which is great. And then since then, we've moved on to it being a full-time gig. We're now working with entrepreneurs all over the world, mainly in the US and Canada and things like that. And yeah, things are going well. So that's a little bit around kind of how we got to where we are today.
That's awesome, man. What's the most important thing you learned during that time doing the vending machine job?
Yeah, so I definitely like Kit Kats. They're great, man. Like I'd always steal these. I'd always steal these out of the back of the truck that I would drive because I was like, I'm so hungry, man. Like no one's going to see if I steal a Kit Kat, right? I mean, if they listen to this, they might. But I think the biggest thing I learned is, especially when the chips are down, like you really need to have self-belief in yourself that things are going to change, and that actually you do have the things inside you to get to where you want to be. It's just not happening for you right now. And I remember there's even a photo of me that I share on Twitter where I'm smiling in the photo of me filling a vending machine because like it was a shit job and it was a shit time, but I just thought to myself, well, this is just going to be another story for when I do become successful. Like I've always had that self-belief in myself. And I think for anyone that's listening, that's going through that, is to really not give up on what you care about, because I didn't. And now I've been able to do the things that I like and build my business. And I'm happy that I did, for sure. That's one awesome, of the biggest lessons.
Yeah. It's so, I think this is just a human thing. And I guess it's natural and it makes sense. But the thing is, by the time people see you, by the time people discover you, whether it's on social media or through a podcast or whatever it is, you've already been through a lot and gone through, like people don't see the work behind it unless someone follows you or knows you personally from very early. They just kind of see where you're at now, and they often vastly underestimate and play down whatever nonsense you had to go through prior to it. I mean, I relate to that so much because, I mean, I left my corporate job in 2011. Well, I released my first album in 2006 when I was still in uni. And then I left my corporate job in November 2011, more than 10 years ago. And 2019 was the first year that I made more money than I used to in my corporate job. So it took 8 years just to get back to what I was earning in my early 20s, honestly. Yeah, I didn't get to that again until my early 30s. Now it's like, okay, now I'm crushing what I would be doing if I was still in that corporate world. And it's weird. Yeah. Like probably 98% of people who know me discovered me in the last 3 years. But it all started in 2006. So it's weird when you just get people who completely want to play down, like, oh, like you just showed up one day and had all these followers and did all this. Like, man, like, dude, like I used to sell my CDs out on the street. I'm surprised I never met you out, like when I was out just selling my CDs on the street. I feel like I've met like every third person in the UK.
Yeah.
Man, like I was just out there all the time for years, just different cities all over.
Takes
South
a lot of
Coast to
hustle,
the top.
man. Like every guy that I see selling CDs and
Hmm.
mixtapes on the street, man, that's hustle. That's
Dude,
fucking hustle.
yeah, it's real hustle, but you learn so much from it, man. That's why I was curious. Like, the vending machine job, it might suck at the time, but that's when you know, and it takes that self belief, which at the time, especially to outsiders, can seem a little delusional, right? Because they see what you're doing right then, and they're like, this guy's just filling vending machines, or this guy's just here trying to slang his CDs on the street.
Yeah,
But I know I myself was like, man, like I know I didn't quit that corporate job for no reason.
of
Like
course.
I don't know if it's going to take 3 years or 5 years or 8 years or 10 years, but I don't care. Even if it takes 20 years, the world's going to know my name. I'm going to do something great.
Absolutely, man. There's that really good visual, right, by Visualize Value, where it's kind of like got the dots and it says this is pointless. And then after a while, the dots come up, right? And that's
Yeah.
what it's kind of like. You go through all of this stuff, but if you keep persisting, there is actually kind of going to be a result at the end of the, gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And we still got a long way to go. That's why it's even more
That's
exciting.
it. Yeah.
What was it that led to the breakthrough in your business? Was there something that you did different, or did
Yeah.
what was the thing?
So it was a lot of good fortune as well because of what happened over the past couple of years with what's gone on. Everybody was obviously locked down. So,
Mm,
a lot of online trainers were kind of needed during this time because people were at home and things like that. And what I found was a lot of the personal trainers that were, on the floor found it very difficult to kind of translate to training people online because they weren't used to that. They were used to the gym floor. They weren't used to marketing themselves. Whereas for me, I'd been marketing myself for the past like 3-4 years. So
mhm,
when things hit, I started getting an influx of people that were interested in my service, which was really, really good.
mhm,
Um, so from that point, I started to create a lot more digital products and started to automate a lot of stuff online, and especially push out a lot of content through my Instagram channel, which was very successful at the time.
mm,
It was then when I discovered this thing called Money Twitter, which everybody is now on, right? And
mhm,
started posting out content on there. And I think that for me, I really wanted to work, and my goal was always to work with higher performers, executives, entrepreneurs. The reason being is I always feel these guys are super disciplined, and I love that about them. The reason why they're successful in business is because they're disciplined, and all they really need to do is translate that over to their body, and they can
mhm,
do the same. And I wanted to kind of be that guy in the middle that bridges the gap, that helps the people do it. So I started moving and targeting towards them. And as I started to build my channels and started to build my socials, I started to work with a lot of these guys. And through it, they actually gave me like business advice on, how to improve my own business, which was great.
mhm,
And that's one of the benefits of working with, clients that are doing well in business is they'll actually give you some tips on how to do things right if you're open to the feedback. And I've
mhm.
always been open to feedback. And things have started to improve. So yeah, you could say a mix of luck as well as kind of having a direction of a niche of people I wanted to target.
That's awesome, man. And I've been following you on Twitter for several years, and you also do a lot of traveling. It's hard to keep track of where you are. So where did you get the travel bug from?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it's from the fact that my dad and mum always used to take us traveling as kids. So me and my sister, I think we'd been to like maybe 15 to 20 countries by the time we were like 15, 16.
Mhm,
Like we were super, super fortunate in that sense. I mean, we'd go back to Indonesia quite a lot to visit places. And then as we go back, we'd kind of like visit different spots. And yeah, my mum's a bit of a hippie as well. So like she just likes going to these new places and things like that. So I really got the bug. And I think that to get a wider understanding of, who you are as a person, who you are as a man, you need to understand what the world is like.
mhm,
So for me, travel is very important. And, you get to meet a range of different people from different cultures and have new experiences, as well as the fact that I like being shirtless on the beach. So, like that's important to me and to keep my tan up, man. So yeah, it's a big passion, and I really want to travel to as many countries as I can. By the time I die, it's one of those
mhm.
things that I really want to do.
That's awesome, man. Any particular favorite cities or countries?
Yeah, so I really love Lisbon. I'm actually going there next week.
Mhm,
I think it's a beautiful city. The great thing about Lisbon is you've got like the city and you've got the beach too. And for me, I like the city buzz because if you're running a business, and I know a lot of people say this, is like they want to like retire to the mountains and stuff in a cabin like on their own, and like that sounds great, but really, I think like being around people who are pushing themselves successfully in business world, the city life, combined with kind of like nice warm weather, like for me, that's like the perfect combination.
Mhm.
So really like Lisbon. The people are nice too. The culture's great. I like the Mediterranean, like Barcelona too.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely be visiting those two this year for sure.
That's awesome, man. And do you have plans to, how long do you think you're going to stay in the UK for? Are you planning to get out to warmer climes at some point?
Yeah, so I think the UK is going to be a temporary residence for me. I'd like to move abroad somewhere, like I said, to Lisbon, the Mediterranean, places like that, as much as I can. I think the UK, especially with what's gone on the past couple of years, for me, it's important to move away from that. And also from a lifestyle perspective, I think it's going to suit me much more to be in a warmer climate for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think man, it's so, I think it's really important for people to understand that where you are born or raised is not always the best place for you. Like I understand that there can be all sorts of difficulties and hurdles in people moving around, even within a country, let alone outside of it. But yeah, as someone who's also traveled a lot, both by completely voluntary, but also just as a result of my upbringing, I find so many people locked into this mentality of thinking that they have to, just because they were born on a certain patch of land, that is where they must remain for the remainder of their life. And I think people are doing a disservice by doing that, at least not exploring. I think at least if you check out a few other places, you can then, even if you decide, my hometown or my home country is where I like the most, then at least you've got a better reference point. But I think a lot of people sort of, I don't know, sort of suffer unnecessarily, and they want to just like stay there and suffer and complain about it. And I'm kind of like, dude, like move, go somewhere else. Yeah, it might be sort of tricky, but you'll land on your feet and you'll be so much happier, because environment makes a huge difference.
Definitely, man. And I think, with that, you touched on a good point. It's like things really do stay the same when you stay in the same place. And there's that kind of small town mentality that you can see with just staying in the same city and not moving. And if you want to kind of develop yourself, I think, as a person and develop your network and be in the right environment, then like travel is absolutely crucial to that, because your town's going to stay the same, man. You're going to go back. And I find this when I travel, I come back, things are very much the same. And I've gone off to have these experiences and do these things. And it's kind of like, man, I wish you guys could just come with me and go on this great adventure, right? Because it's super exciting for sure.
Yeah, most definitely, man. So what's your big goal for all of this? Like what sort of scale are you trying to take it to? Where do you see this all going over the next few years, or perhaps even decades?
Definitely, man. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about this recently, and I would really like to develop what I do into a wellness brand. So not just coaching entrepreneurs, but actually being the wellness brand for entrepreneurs. So providing not just the coaching program that we have, digital products, physical products, and even things like experiences and in-person retreats, which I think would be awesome. So as the world hopefully opens up, doing great fitness and wellness retreats in exotic places all over the world, because for me, like, I love this kind of shit, right? I love fitness and I love travel. So I'm really trying to combine my passion with that. And I also think that as much as the online business world is great, meeting people in person is awesome, and having that human connection is great. And you can get so much out of these retreats when you're with other people that are in a like-minded place. And you'll find that a lot of entrepreneurs together, there's going to be a lot of benefits that people are going to get from being in that environment. So for me, it's really to scale that into a wellness brand, and ideally be one of the number one, if not the number one wellness brand in the world. I'd like to take it to. So we've got big ambitions for it. But for me, like, I'm happy to build up my personal brand and take it steadily, because for me, this is my passion. I'm able to do what I want to do, and it's something I'm never going to give up. So yeah, that's kind of the plan with things for sure.
That's awesome, man. What do you find is the hardest thing to deal with all of it? Is because whenever you start to grow any type of public profile, or strike out on your own, or do something creative, or build a social media following, whatever it is, anything that kind of deviates from the traditional norm, there are always all sorts of difficulties, from criticism to hate to self-doubt to people just not understanding what you're doing, so on. What do you find is the trickiest thing?
It's very strange. So a lot of these things, especially as I've grown up, I'd found very difficult, especially the criticisms that I got from people that I knew, because a lot of people were taking the traditional route, which is kind of the path that's been already well forged, whereas I was taking this completely unique path, putting videos out on YouTube, tweeting stuff on Twitter, making lots of content on Instagram. And I got a lot of backlash from this kind of stuff, especially when I started out. A lot of people were laughing at me, criticizing this kind of stuff.
Is this people you know primarily?
People I knew, yeah, exactly. Of course, at the time it felt very difficult because I didn't really know how to handle it. But as I got older, you kind of understand where it comes from. But really now it's a lot easier to deal with because I know what my values are. And I think this is the most important thing that you need to understand as a person is you need to drive your behavior, not by what everybody else is doing, but like what your values are as a person. And for me, it's always been freedom, right? The freedom to do the things that I want, to be authentic in who I am and to really chase my passion. And if that means that some people dislike the fact that I do the things that I do, then sadly that's on them, right? And that's for them to deal with. And I don't feel any shame for the things that I want to do because I want to be proud of what I do. So if people are struggling, I always find that like just digging down into who you are and your values, what you believe in, is a really good way to overcome those kind of criticisms and people maybe not agreeing with what you're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The hardest thing I've found, actually, especially over the last couple of years with the way things have accelerated, is I think early on, what you just described was the hardest part.
Yeah.
Just going against this grain. I studied computer science at Oxford University, and then I was like, all right, I want to be a rapper. Like there was nobody doing anything. No one from my university was doing anything like what I was doing. And
of course,
it was just weird to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And, when I left my corporate job to be like, all right, I'm going to go full time with my music. I don't even have like a record, I don't have a record label or anything. It was just a lot of doubt and a lot of people thinking it was weird. So for many years, that was the hardest part for me. I think now the hardest thing is actually, and maybe this is something you'll, I think you'll experience in the future. The hardest part is actually accepting that there are going to be people who have completely the wrong idea of who you are and what you believe in. There are going to be people who completely lie and make up fabricated stories about you. And there are conspiracy theories about me out there now, right? Just like completely baseless, like weird, bizarre stuff. And that's going to happen. And you can't, you don't have the time nor ability to stop it all. Right. Like I'm someone who's trying to do good in the world, done a lot of positive things, helped a lot of people, inspired, motivated a lot of people. And I know where my heart is. And I don't like the idea of someone having this like really, really skewed and incorrect view of me, that I'm like, some horrible or nasty person or someone who believes in things that I don't do. And you have to kind of make peace with the fact that that's just going to happen. Yeah. And that kind of sucks because you always want to like jump in and be like, yo, like, what are you guys talking about? What are you even talking about? This is who I am. But like, you don't have the time, ability, or energy. And that's something that has kind of been just really weird for me, especially over the past 2 years, where I just got to see things out there on the internet. And I'm like, what are these people talking about? Like, this is it's so off base. It's totally made up. It's fabricated. And you're just like, man, it kind of sucks that they think that, but I can't do anything about it. And I've seen it because it's weird because I've seen this happen to other people. Like if you want to see a big example, look at someone like Joe Rogan, right? People paint there's people out there who think he's like a white supremacist and a racist. And like he hates this people, or he's like said or done this thing that he hasn't said or done or whatever. And they have these like really screwed up perspectives of him. Or Jordan Peterson is some like alt-right, like Hitler apologist who hates women. He hates women and like he's trans. And I'm like, are you talking about the same person? Like, are you talking about the same Joe Rogan, the same Jordan Peterson that like that I've connected with? Because that is not who they are. But like there's all these people who have these horrible, like, weird ideas about who you are, and then they like propagate it as well. They'll tell other people this is who you are, and you can't really you can't do anything about it. And it kind of sucks.
Yeah, man, definitely. It's the nature, I think, of building a brand online, though. It's kind of the way that it works. And I guess when you get to the the bigger numbers like you are, and obviously people like Joe, it's just going to be the nature of the job, right?
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's just weird. It's very,
so
very
weird,
weird
so
when you see it. When you see somebody, it's like, where you're like, where? It's one thing to get something like slightly off, like maybe there's a part of your story that like they twist.
Yeah.
But when it's just like, I'm like, how do you just make something up like this about someone? it's really odd. With all the clients that you've worked with, what are some of the what are some of the common hurdles that people have? Because we're both really into physical fitness and nutrition and training. We haven't always been in shape our entire lives, but we've gotten ourselves in shape and are trying to help other people. What are some of the things that you consistently see?
Yeah, so I think consistently is a big issue that people find is the lack of actual weight training and like the lack of muscle that people have on their frame.
Okay.
So you find that with a lot of people, the traditional fitness approach to losing weight is let's go running, right? And you get on the treadmill and you go running with a complete disregard to, your diet and your weight training. Now, running will work up to a point, but if you keep running, essentially your body will adapt to your metabolism, right? And you're going to need less and less calories to lose the fat that you want. So you have to do more and more exercise. In simple terms, essentially what you need is more muscle, right? When you've got more muscle on your frame, from a health point of view, it's going to improve your posture, it's going to improve your confidence, your testosterone, how you move around each day. And it's also just going to ensure that your body can burn more calories. Now, when you can burn more calories at rest, this is good because you don't have to diet on such low calories, and this makes life more fun. It also transforms the way your body looks. So when you start to build muscle, let's say you've got a 160-pound guy that's not got very much muscle, but he's got a lot of fat. And then you look at a guy who's 160 pounds, but he's got a lot of muscle and not much fat. That's two completely different guys. And the key difference here is the fact that they've driven their body to weight train and build muscle. And once you do that, you're going to start looking a lot better in the body from a health point of view, but also just from a general looks point of view too. It looks really good. So as one of the things I do on my programs, I get all of my clients weight training. Every single client gets weight training because the goal for longevity of their health and for looks and to get the body composition they want is to build more muscle. So resistance training to introduce to my clients, they're a bit like, this is crazy. Are you just some crazy meathead that loves the gym? Like, it's true, I am, but I do have a premise behind it too, right? And it's just to ensure that you can have more muscle because it gives you that longevity to age and those other benefits I spoke about.
Yeah, most def, man. I think one of the man, I think there's been so much propaganda and, to use an overused term, misinformation about resistance training and strength training over the course of many, many decades on multiple levels. First of all, is this notion that like intelligence or character is somehow like inversely correlated with how much muscle you have, right? There's this idea of this like jock stereotype, which honestly, I think a lot of it comes from like cartoons and TV. Right. Yeah, there's this notion that, right, like if you're watching a cartoon, the buff guy is always stupid.
Yeah.
Right. There's always like the small, intelligent person, like there's a skinny, intelligent guy. And there's like the buff, stupid person, or like who's just a thug or whatever. And people have this idea in their head that like lifting weights or getting jacked somehow makes you like, like you're compensating for some intellectual deficit or something. Like I've heard people say things like, "Oh, I'd rather read a book than lift weights." It's like, you can do both, right? Like
they're not mutually exclusive.
they're not mutually exclusive activities. And I think there's so much stuff that you have to kind of like undo people's misconceptions and bad ideas, or I'm sure with a lot of women, right? I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to get too big. Like I don't want to get too. It's like, good luck getting too jacked, right? Like it's not. Right? We spend our lives trying to get too jacked, and we're
not there yet.
It's not an easy thing to do. So people are, I don't want to get bulky, or I don't want to do this, or I'm sure people ask you questions. Oh, what happens if I eat carbs after 7 p.m.?
Yeah, there's so much. What do you mean? At 7:01, man, you're just going to get so fat and that's it. It's the end of your life, right? It's crazy. But you're right. I think there's a lot of stigma around certain things. And it's actually really good to see people now that excel in many different areas. And from what I've found anyway, guys that are muscular, they actually start to take care of other sides of their life. And
Yep.
this is what you'll see, right? Like I always say, lifting weights is a gateway drug to self-improvement, because it's true, right? Like when you start lifting weights, you have a good diet, you look after yourself, you start giving a shit about other things in your life, like your relationships. So you start dating better quality people. You then have more energy and confidence to go out and build a business and things like that. So you become a better person when you actually start lifting weights and getting more muscular. Whereas, a lot of people actually think that it makes you dumber and it makes you worse. And that stereotype is completely not true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, and some of this maybe is the fault of marketing, but the benefits of strength training go so far beyond just aesthetics, right? So many people are like, oh, it's just this vain activity. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, even if it didn't even aesthetically, there are so many benefits in terms of health that the superficial part is almost, I don't know, it's almost like a byproduct. Like perhaps that might be the thing that initially, people initially go for. But once you've been training for a while, you quickly realize that the mental and cognitive benefits and the impact it has on real world things, especially as people get older, right? As people go into their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, there's so much of what people call aging that you can drastically slow down through strength training. You're not going to do it just by running or riding a bike, but if you do weight training, then the muscle that you would normally lose and the fat that you would normally gain over the course of those decades, you can really, really slow that down to an impressive amount. Like you can be in your 50s, even in your 60s, and be in better shape than plenty of 25 and 30-year-olds out there.
Absolutely, man. And I always use the analogy of the elastic band. So, when you're got a lot of muscle on your frame and, you built strength, you're very robust rubber band. And when the trials and tribulations of life, things like sicknesses, things that go on in the world, stress is a big one as well, try to pull you apart. Like, you're a very strong rubber band, like things can't pull you apart as much. Now, when you don't have much muscle, like you're a flimsy rubber band, you get pulled apart, you get sick easier, right? Stress affects you a lot more. So, like muscle is like one of the number one health benefits that you should be focusing on if you want longevity as you age. And not just from a looks point of view, but like I said, to help you with the trials and tribulations of life that are going to come your way.
Yeah. And man, it still blows my mind that in the past 2 years, this was barely a conversation, right? Yeah. It still amazes me that you would have thought, right? Like obesity has been a big problem in the UK, the USA, entire Western world for many decades, for our entire lives at this point. What this would have been the best time ever to really strongly push a message of real public health, right? Yeah. Especially with this particular disease, which is way more likely to hospitalize or hurt someone if they are out of shape, if they are obese, right? Yes, there's age, but outside of age, the other things are primarily things someone's responsible for, right? Like how well they take care. And there's been, to this day, more than 2 years in, there's been so little conversation about, okay, like now's a good time for people to lose some weight. Now's a good time to get people exercising, get people eating a better diet, get people out there. And they just did the opposite. It was like, nope, stay home. In fact, we're going to close down the gyms. If you go to the gym, you're a terrorist. It's just been so inverted. It's just been wear a mask and take a shot and stay at home. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Just those things. Like no, hey, maybe you should exercise, maybe drink some water, get enough sleep. I don't know. Like it's been so frustrating because I just thought this would have been such a powerful moment for that message to go out there.
It would have been. And I think what that should have happened is, why has there not been one health expert or trainer on a news station to say, hey, this is a little bit around like your diet of what you need to do to lose weight. Like, this is a strength training program you should try. Like, give this a go. Like, this will help you out. Like, there is no harm in sharing that. But for some reason, the way the world has gone, this is just not the way people want to do it, man.
It's nutty. You know, I don't know if you saw, I actually got criticized for that last year.
Oh, really?
I think August last year or so, I was invited onto invited onto Fox News to talk about some of the the policies, is when all the restrictions and
Sure.
stuff were crazy. And I was like, well, if we're going to talk about health, can we talk about health, right? What about diet? What about nutrition? What about people's body weight? What about exercise? What about training? Like, what about all of these other things? What about vitamin D? What about basic
Yeah.
supplementation to keep your immune system up? And I don't know if you're familiar with the with Media Matters.
Oh
Media
yeah,
Matters,
I know
yeah,
them. Yeah,
Media
yeah.
Matters is this U.S. organization that basically, tries to claim that they're calling out right-wing extremism or whatever. And they literally took like they literally took like a clip from the interview where I'm literally there like advocating for people to take better care of their health, and they tried to like frame it as me being the bad guy here for saying
Oh
that people
man.
should. And I was just like, dude, like, how in the you're the ones who keep saying we're in the middle of a deadly pandemic. It's like, well, like, I'm not worried about this virus. Like, I'm good, right?
Yeah,
I'm here
yeah.
trying to like give some ideas for other people to think about so that they can take their health into their own hands. And they somehow make it this like weird partisan political issue. And you've probably seen these various articles coming out both in the US and UK about, like the why is the far right so obsessed with fitness?
Fitness, yeah.
What's going on? The dangerous rise of like right wing bodybuilders. I don't even. I'm just
Yeah.
like, what is going on?
It is like a meme at this point, to be honest. It is a complete meme when you look at it, right? And I think that, I hope for a lot of people, it's been a big wake up call, but, it's take some personal responsibility on your health, man. Like I've always been saying this and I'll always preach this in my message. It's like, it doesn't take a lot to just resistance train a little bit, clean up your diet and just, fix your sleep a little bit. Now, if you can set that base for yourself, you're going to be in such a better position when it comes to everything that life throws at you. And you're going to feel much better. You're going to be more present in your relationships. You're going to engage better with people. You're even going to go into your business meetings presenting yourself in a better way because you're going to carry yourself in a much better light. Personal responsibility is really the key. And if, people in the mainstream media are not going to push it, then I know people like me and you will, because it's a message we both really believe in. And it's very important that people do.
Yeah, man, 100%. And it's one of the few things in the world, like besides the effort and time commitment,
Yeah.
there's no downsides. It's all upside. Like it's all upside from
high ROI. It's high ROI.
Extremely high ROI. Like it's
Yeah.
just with every facet, social interactions, your confidence, your mental health, your physical health, your longevity, your resistance to certain diseases, whether it's COVID or it's osteoporosis or it's various types of cancer or diabetes, the way your clothes fit you, the way the opposite sex looks at you, right? Everything, like it's all upside. And
Yeah.
what you learn from it, as you've alluded to, the same factors that make you successful in training are the same thing that will make you successful in anything else, whether it's relationships, business, career, whatever, right? Dedication, having a plan, perseverance, pushing through the difficulties and the plateaus, taking accountability and personal responsibility. If you can apply it in one area, you can take it and you can apply it to others. If you're successful in business or in your relationship, you can take that same mentality, apply it to your training, apply it to your diet, and you'll get better. I've never seen someone significantly improve their physique naturally without significantly improving other aspects of their life. It's actually impossible. You cannot lose 100 pounds without drastically changing your mindset. It's not possible.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Like they go hand in hand.
There is zero downside to getting yourself in good physical shape and taking care of your health. Like you mentioned, there is zero downside, and nearly majority everything is an upside, man.
It's
Serious.
all upside. It's literally all upside. I think there aren't that many things that are that high ROI and which don't cost anything more than some effort. And it's also not crazy effort as well. Like so many people think that, to be in good shape, you have to spend 12 hours a week in the gym, or you have to, train twice a day for 2 hours. I'm like, no, like you can literally spend, let's say, 4 to 5 hours a week
Even less sometimes, man. I mean, with the
Yeah.
clients I work with, they're super busy and they get kind of quite surprised when I tell them we can do things in 3 hours a week. Like
3
3 hours
hours
a
a week, yeah.
week, we can get some results. And
Mm-hmm.
they look at me like, are you sure? They do it, and like they see the changes. And like, as long as you're willing to be consistent with it,
Mm-hmm.
you can do it in minimal amount of time, man, on the right program with the right support, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, everyone, if you're listening to this and you don't lift weights, now is the time to take the Jacksine. It's safe,
Yeah.
safe and effective.
Yeah.
If you've
Take your
already taken
booster.
exactly multiple boosters per week,
Yeah.
reduces the risk of hospitalization and death, increases the
Yeah.
chances of sexiness and being in good shape and living a long time. So this is the campaign that we need. We need the international campaign for this. I wonder, maybe just to troll people, maybe I'm gonna like rent a billboard in some city and just have the "Get Jacksinated" slogan on it. That would be fun.
Please, man, please do that.
That's awesome, man. So Oliver, have you got anything else, anything coming up this year or soon that you want people to know about?
So sure. We've just launched actually a new program for entrepreneurs. So if you're an entrepreneur listening and you're looking to look great, feel great, and be great, I've launched a new 12-month program, which is really going to help you with body transformation, internal health change, and really just optimizing yourself as well in kind of 3 hours a week. So we've just launched that and bringing new clients on board, which is really exciting. So that's one of the big changes. And I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling, man. So I'm off to Lisbon next week. I think I'm going to a few other countries in Europe and a few other places too, man. So I'm excited.
That's awesome, man. And where can people find and follow you online?
Sure. So you can follow me on Twitter. I'm most active on there. Anwar, Roanwar. And I've also got a YouTube channel, which I've just started this year. So if you just search Oliver Anwar on YouTube, you'll see a Asian guy that likes to lift weights, making videos. So yeah.
Awesome, man. Oliver, so good to talk to you, bro.
You too, man. Appreciate having me on.